On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Moe Howard, the iconic leader of the Three Stooges, died of natural causes on May 4, 1975, at the age of 77. He succumbed to lung cancer in Los Angeles, a quiet end for a man whose on-screen persona was defined by loud slaps, eye pokes, and comic chaos. His death marked the close of a chapter in American comedy that had brought laughter to audiences for over 4 decades. Howard's passing came at a time when slapstick had begun to fade from mainstream popularity, replaced by more nuanced or socially conscious humor. Yet Moe, with his signature bold haircut and aggressive antics, represented a comedic style that emerged from the Great Depression and resonated with working-class audiences. The Three Stooges were not just entertainers. They were symbols of resilience during times of hardship. Their humor, rooted in physical gags and exaggerated absurdity, offered escapism in eras plagued by economic struggle, war, and uncertainty. The immediate consequences of Moe's death were both personal and cultural. For fans, it was a moment of nostalgia and reflection, an acknowledgement that an era of vaudeville-inspired humor had passed. For the entertainment industry, it highlighted the closing of a generation of performers who had bridged stage, short film, and television. Moe had been the glue that held the Stooges together through lineup changes and industry shifts, and his loss underscored the end of the troupe's legacy in its original form. Though Moe was never considered a dramatic actor or cultural theorist, his influence on comedy is undeniable. His death did not shift the course of history, but it did cement the legacy of the Three Stooges as comedic pioneers. His role as the leader stooge amplified the group's mythos, particularly among fans and historians of early American television and film. Moe Howard's death reminds us of humanity's deep connection to humor as a coping mechanism and cultural mirror. Comedy, often dismissed as light entertainment, becomes a powerful historical marker when viewed through the lives of figures like Howard. We immortalize him not with statues, but with reruns, parody, and the echo of laughter. In that laughter, Moe lives on, not just as a performer, but as a symbol of how joy can endure through hardship. Adam Yauch, better known as MCA of the Beastie Boys, died on May 4, 2012, after a 3-year battle with salivary gland cancer. His death at the age of 47 marked the loss of not just a pioneering voice in hip-hop, but also a deeply influential cultural figure who had evolved far beyond his rebellious early persona. Yauch's passing from natural causes due to illness reflected the broader shift of hip-hop's once youthful icons into middle age, a moment that underscored the genre's longevity and its power to grow and mature with its artists. As a founding member of the Beastie Boys, Yauch helped transform the perception of rap music in the 1980s. Initially seen as rowdy pranksters, the group evolved into thoughtful musicians with a social conscience, a shift largely driven by Yauch himself. He was instrumental in weaving political and spiritual awareness into the group's later work, especially through his activism for Tibetan independence and his founding of the Milarepa Fund. His battle with cancer was kept relatively private, yet his death struck a deep emotional chord with fans who had grown up with the group's music. The immediate consequences of Yauch's passing were profound. The Beastie Boys, having just been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, effectively disbanded following his death. Yauch's presence was seen as irreplaceable. His passing marked the end of one of hip-hop's most enduring acts and prompted tributes from across the music industry. Artists from multiple genres recognized his influence not only on music, but on the integration of activism and artistry. Yauch's death amplified his legacy, highlighting the depth and evolution of his character. He had grown from a brash provocateur into a man of principle and compassion, showing that maturity and creativity could coexist within the public eye. His transformation reflected values of the era: artistic growth, global awareness, and authenticity. In death, Adam Yauch is immortalized not only through classic albums like Paul's Boutique and Ill Communication, but also through continued tributes in music, film, and activism. He reminds us that legacy is shaped not just by how one lives, but by how one grows, and how one uses their platform to leave the world better than they found it. Katherine Damon, best known for her Emmy-winning role as Mary Campbell on the satirical soap opera Soap, died on May 4, 1987, from ovarian cancer at the age of 56. Her death, though from natural causes, came at a time when conversations around women's health and cancer awareness were gaining urgency in the public sphere. Damon's passing, while not violent or sudden, reflected the silent battles many women of her generation faced in private, while maintaining careers in a demanding entertainment industry that often placed youth and image above well-being. Her illness was largely kept from public knowledge until her death, which mirrors the ethos of many in the Hollywood community of that time, maintaining professionalism and public grace despite personal suffering. In an era before widespread openness about health struggles, particularly those involving women's reproductive health, Damon's quiet battle against cancer serves as a poignant reminder of the stigma and silence that once surrounded such topics. The immediate consequences of her passing were felt deeply among fans and colleagues. Soap, known for its bold satire and progressive treatment of taboo subjects, had already ended its run in 1981, but Damon remained beloved for her comedic timing, expressive performances, and ability to bring depth to the absurd. Her death was a sobering moment for fans who had come to admire her wit and warmth, and it contributed to a growing appreciation for the talents of women in television who had long been undervalued or overshadowed. While Damon did not achieve the same level of posthumous mythologizing as some of her peers, her death nonetheless helped cement her legacy as part of a pioneering generation of actresses who broke new ground for women in television comedy. Her performance on Soap remains a benchmark for ensemble comedy acting, blending absurdity with sincerity, and has since influenced a generation of performers. Reflecting on her passing, we are reminded of the fragility of life even for those who bring laughter to others. Katherine Damon's story illustrates how memory and legacy often outlast the fame of one's prime. Through reruns, retrospectives, and fan tributes, she continues to live on, a quiet testament to the enduring power of performance and the humanity behind the characters we cherish. Diana Dors, often hailed as the English Marilyn Monroe, passed away on May 4, 1984, from ovarian cancer at the age of 52. Her death, while from natural causes, was steeped in the poignancy of fading stardom and a society grappling with changing ideals of fame, beauty, and femininity. Once the epitome of post-war glamour in Britain, Dors's later years were marked by financial troubles, health struggles, and a complicated relationship with the press that both elevated and scrutinized her throughout her career. Dors's decline paralleled the broader disillusionment with the golden age of celebrity. She had been a trailblazer in many ways, outspoken, candid about her sexuality, and ahead of her time in addressing issues like ageism and body image in the entertainment industry. Her death marked not only the loss of a beloved public figure, but also a symbolic farewell to a particular era of cinema that worshipped bombshell icons while often neglecting the women behind them. The immediate impact of her passing stirred waves of nostalgia across the UK. Fans mourned the loss of a star who had entertained them for decades, while the media reflected on her tumultuous life with a mixture of reverence and tabloid curiosity. Yet in death, Doors was seen through a softer lens, her resilience admired, her contributions to film and television re-evaluated. As with many figures who die young or at the peak of their cultural memory, Doors' legend grew in stature posthumously, aided by tales of lost wealth, hidden diaries, and secret bank accounts that added a layer of intrigue to her legacy. Her death underscores a recurring theme in the lives of iconic women in the public eye: the tension between personal authenticity and societal expectation. Doors' unflinching candor and defiance of norms often placed her at odds with the polished image demanded of her. Yet it is precisely this duality that makes her memory enduring. Today, Diana Doors is immortalized through film, retrospectives, biographies, and the continued fascination with her life's glamour and grit. Her story reveals how society often romanticizes those it once misunderstood, and how memory serves not just to preserve, but to reshape legacy. In remembering Doors, we confront the impermanence of fame and the human need to find meaning and myth in those who once lit up the screen. Don Shula, one of the most iconic figures in American football history, died of natural causes on May 4, 2020, at the age of 90. His passing marked the end of an era, not just for the Miami Dolphins, whom he coached for over 2 decades, but for the NFL as a whole. Known for his ironclad discipline, strategic brilliance, and quiet but commanding leadership, Shula embodied a brand of professionalism and perseverance that resonated deeply with mid-20th century American values. Shula's death came during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, a time when sports and public life were on pause. This contrast between the energetic, packed stadiums of his coaching years and the eerily silent sports world of 2020 made his passing feel even more poignant. While he died peacefully at home, the symbolic weight of his departure echoed across a society suddenly reckoning with loss, uncertainty, and the fragility of traditions once taken for granted. The immediate aftermath of his death was one of unified reverence. Former players, coaches, and fans alike paid tribute to the man whose 1972 Miami Dolphins completed the NFL's only perfect season, a feat that has become almost mythical in football lore. His legacy as the winningest coach in NFL history, with 347 victories, was celebrated not only in statistics, but in stories of mentorship, discipline, and character. Shula's death did not radically shift the course of history, but it did amplify his legend. As football evolved into a faster, flashier, and more commercialized spectacle, Shula's old-school values gained renewed appreciation. His emphasis on hard work, preparation, and integrity stood in stark contrast to the celebrity-driven narratives now dominating the sport. His enduring presence lives on through numerous honors: the Don Shula Award, the statue at Hard Rock Stadium, and countless documentaries and retrospectives. These tributes reveal much about humanity's relationship with mortality and memory. We seek to preserve what we admire and use the stories of great figures like Shula to inspire future generations. In the end, Don Shula's death served not as a final chapter, but as a reaffirmation of timeless virtues: perseverance, humility, and excellence. His story reminds us that greatness is not just about victories, but about the legacy one leaves behind. Sada Thompson, an Emmy-winning actress celebrated for her powerful portrayals of complex, emotionally resonant women, passed away on May 4, 2011, at the age of 83. Her death, caused by lung disease, marked the quiet conclusion of a luminous career that spanned stage, television, and film. Known most widely for her role as Kate Lawrence on the 1970s television drama family. Thompson helped redefine the image of motherhood on American TV, not as overly sentimental or one-dimensional, but as intelligent, conflicted, and deeply human. Thompson's passing reflected the era's quieter reverence for classically trained actors whose impact was felt not through celebrity, but through craft. In a time when Hollywood increasingly favored blockbuster glamour, her death was a reminder of an earlier television era that emphasized family values, character development, and real-world emotional struggles. The absence of scandal or spectacle surrounding her death was fitting for a woman who built her legacy on depth rather than noise. The immediate response to her death from industry professionals and fans alike was filled with respect and admiration. She was remembered not only for her Emmy-winning performance, but also for her critically acclaimed work on Broadway, including roles in plays like Twigs, for which she won a Tony Award. Her ability to move between mediums with grace and authority reflected a dedication to her craft that inspired a generation of actors. Though Thompson's death did not shift the trajectory of history in dramatic fashion, it did amplify the appreciation for a more thoughtful, emotionally grounded style of performance. As modern entertainment increasingly emphasizes speed and spectacle, Thompson's legacy remains a touchstone for those who value authenticity and emotional truth in storytelling. In reflecting on her passing, we are reminded of the ways humanity seeks to preserve depth in an age of distraction. Through reruns, archival footage, and continued praise from critics and peers, Sada Thompson is immortalized not through headlines, but through the resonance of her work. Her legacy lives on in the characters she brought to life, strong, flawed, loving women who mirrored the evolving roles of women in American society, and in the artists she inspired to tell honest, human stories. Alvy Moore, best remembered for his role as the comically naive county agent Hank Kimball on the 1960s sitcom Green Acres, passed away from heart failure on May 4, 1997, at the age of 75. His death was natural, occurring in a time when television was undergoing rapid change, from traditional sitcoms to more dramatic and reality-based programming. Moore's passing marked the quiet end of a career built on character work that captured the charm and simplicity of mid-century American entertainment. Moore's legacy is firmly rooted in a period when television served as both an escape and a reinforcement of rural American values. His character, frequently forgetful but always well-meaning, mirrored the innocence and optimism of an era before cynicism became more mainstream in popular culture. His death symbolized not just the loss of a beloved character actor, but the fading of a particular kind of comedic storytelling, one that valued quirks and warmth over edge and irony. The immediate impact of Moore's death was modest in the broader entertainment world, as he had not been in the public eye for many years. Yet within circles of classic television fans and among his co-stars, there was a quiet outpouring of appreciation. For those who grew up with Green Acres, his passing stirred nostalgia for a time when television centered on small-town charm rather than high-stakes drama or digital spectacle. Moore's death did not shift the course of history, but it underscored a larger transition in entertainment culture, from analog warmth to digital sharpness, from ensemble casts to celebrity-driven narratives. His contribution reminds us that even supporting roles can leave indelible marks on cultural memory. In reflecting on Alvy Moore's death, we are reminded that mortality often places a lens on the seemingly ordinary and reveals the quiet power of consistency and charm. We immortalize such figures through the reruns that continue to air decades later, through fan tributes, and through the enduring appeal of characters who made us laugh with simplicity. In a world that often races forward, Moore's life and death remind us of the joy found in slowing down and appreciating gentle humor, a legacy that endures in the hearts of those who still smile at the name Hank Kimball. Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore, met a violent and heroic end on May 4, 1799, during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War at the Battle of Seringapatam. As British forces under General George Harris, allied with the Nizam of Hyderabad and the Marathas, stormed the fortress city, Tipu chose not to flee. Instead, he died, sword in hand, defending his capital and ideals of independence against colonial encroachment. His death was not only a personal tragedy, but also a symbolic moment in the larger context of growing British dominance in India. Tipu's death reflected the fierce resistance to imperial expansion during an era when European powers, especially the British East India Company, were asserting control over Indian territories. He stood out among Indian rulers for his modernization efforts, developing military technology, centralizing administration, and even forging international alliances, notably with France. His violent demise in battle underscored the fundamental clash between colonial ambition and indigenous sovereignty. The immediate consequence of Tipu's death was the collapse of Mysore's resistance and its absorption into the British-controlled territory. It marked a turning point in the East India Company's consolidation of power in southern India. While Mysore continued under British suzerainty, the spirit of independence that Tipu represented faded from immediate political life, though it would be revived in later struggles for Indian freedom. His death elevated him to the status of a martyr in Indian history. Tipu became a symbol of anti-colonial resistance and national pride, celebrated in art, literature, and public memory. From statues in Karnataka to references in freedom movement speeches, he has been memorialized as both a warrior king and a visionary. Yet his legacy remains complex, admired for his bravery and reforms, but also debated for his military campaigns against neighboring regions. Tipu Sultan's fall reveals humanity's deep connection to the themes of resistance, sacrifice, and legacy. His defiance in the face of overwhelming odds continues to inspire, proving how death in battle, especially for a cause greater than oneself, can amplify a leader's legend. Through museums, educational curricula, and public monuments, we immortalize such figures,